Welcome to the space where creators have aligned a positive and intellectual collab of open minds. For sharing and learning from one another, it's a vibe. ReadswithRosa podcast on the mic. Subscribe, educators spitting bars. I guess you didn't know I'm multifaceted and humble, taking off life goals. The classroom is my comfort zone where I plant and sow seeds of knowledge, compassion, empathy, and hope. Reading is the key to unlocking your potential. Countless benefits, including cognitive and mental. Regardless of the genre, books are highly influential. Go get yours, I'll get mine. Making strides, monumental. Come rock with me and get down to this new jam. With my friends, I had a very simple plan. Educate the masses through books and life lessons. It's the grand slam. I'm out.
Tala Falava and welcome to the Reads with Rosa podcast. On today's show, we have a Samoan educator who is an outstanding role model in educational leadership. She is currently deputy principal at her school and will soon move on to take on a new challenge as the principal of Kingsford Primary School. Born and bred in the EFKS, it is my honor to welcome to the show, Sialele Pulou. Welcome to the show, sis.
Yeah, EFKS.
It's such an honor to have you on the show, sis. How are you doing these days? It's been a while.
Oh man, it's been too long, Rosa. I think the last time we saw each other was it talanoa or something, the new initiative that they were doing at your church? Yonks ago. Thank you so much for having me. I am honored.
This is the time of the show where I ask our guests to just do a short intro. Usually, shout out your villages, your people. So sis, go ahead.
Oh gosh. Okay. Okay. Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko te moana o kiwa toku moana. Ko muri whangua maawhenga toku marae. Ko no ha mua ahau. Ko puke te papa e noho ana I nainei. Ko EFKS Kingsland toku wharakarakia. Ko ngafa toku papa. Ko line toku mama. Ko Sialele toku ingoa. No reira, tēnā koutou katoa.
Okay.
I thought I'd do that because, we live in Aotearoa, New Zealand. O lo ingoa, Sialele Pulou, o lo tamā, e saumele nuu o muri whanua. O lo tina, e saumele nuu o whenga. And yeah, born and raised in New Zealand, very Samoan girl, born and raised in New Zealand. So yeah, very proud EFKS Kingsland girl. Dad was the founder of that church. So that's been me since I was born. And yeah, shout out to so many people, like my sisters. I only have sisters. I don't have any brothers, but love my sisters, Tawa, Sutu, and Puna, and their husbands and their beautiful babies. I doubt it if they'll watch this. They're sick of me. Anyway, shout out to everybody that's on here. Actually, your viewers. Thank you for having me. I'm truly and honored and completely blessed to be, on this sort of forum to share my story. So yeah, thank you.
I'm super intentional where I love to bring on EFKS folks who are just smashing it in their respective fields, who are just out there. Just being amazing representatives, in their respective fields and in the communities, and in different parts of the world. So it is just such an honor to be able to bring on another EFKS fellow sister, but even more to talk about principalship, your journey as a deputy principal, as an educator, deputy principal for a number of years now. And soon to be moving on to principal. Sis, that is amazing. How are you feeling about that?
It's only been 2 weeks, but it's slowly sinking in when people say, ole pule, tamaitai pule, and I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, hang on, me? No. So it's just been really overwhelming, but I take it with so much pride, like for my parents and, so it's just been real amazing, like, just everyone that's been a part of my journey. It's all for them. It's all to serve the young people at the school, the community, but just all, because, when our parents moved here from Samoa, that's what they wanted. They wanted the best for their children, and it's always been their prayers. And so to actually get to the point where I've been successful and I've had so many setbacks, it's just an important one for them, for our parents. And not for only my parents, but all our parents that migrated here from Samoa. It's a win for them. It's not mine. It's not my success alone. It's definitely a collective. My leadership journey with my principal, who's Samoan as well. He's just been an ambassador of pulling Pasifika people up into that level of principalship. So I definitely give credit to Beru Leao Pepetele, who's been that person for me as well.
Yeah, so on that, you've been in education for around 9 years. Can you speak to that journey?
I was a beginning teacher for 2 years, and then I went straight into becoming a maths leader and for one of the whānau teams, and that was my first leadership role. And then it was so funny. I walked into my principal's office because there were some moments in teaching, kind of made you feel frustrated, and you could probably relate to this. And I felt really frustrated that I couldn't sort of speak for the kids in my class. And so I walked into my principal's office, and I said to him, "How do I get your seat?" And he looked at me, this Palangi old man looked at me like, "Who are you?" It was only my 3rd year into teaching, and already I was like, I need to be sitting where you're sitting in order for me to make the changes that I need to make in my own class. And so that's where it really started to hit, because he said to me I had to do A, B, C, and D. And I said, sweet, I'm going to work at it. So he asked me to, you had to apply for a team leader role. You had to do literacy, you had to, do all these other little sort of leadership roles within the school. And that's what I did. I applied for, we called it whānau leader now. And I applied for it, got it. And I just kept working. When you look at so many people in your lives, or in my life, like my dad and my minister, there were just such people who served wholeheartedly throughout their whole time in EFKS. And so that's all I saw. I saw that in my sisters who were leaders of the Okalavo, the youth group, and so I knew that was my calling. When I walked into my principal's office, I knew that was, okay, this is where I need to go in order for me to get to the end goal, which was to change something that was happening in my class. And so in terms of my pedagogy and leadership, that was it. It was to get to the next level. I knew that creating the platform that I was already on was allowing me to step to the next level. So I went from whānau leader. The deputy principal job came up, and I was only in my 6th year of education. And my principal at the time, he said to me, apply. And I said, man, I'm already 10 steps ahead of you. I am applying. So I knew that was the goal. And so when her job had come up, I applied for it and was successful. And then 3 years in, I applied for 2 other principal roles, and I didn't get it. And that's probably another story in itself. And then the one was primary. Here I am at principalship. It's just God has had his hand over my journey through leadership in my life and this whole time. So I cannot take any credit for it. It's just been him all along telling me where to go and what to do. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell in terms of the 9.5 years of being at this particular school that I've grown. Because I've had 2 different leaders in terms of my first principal, which was Paul Murphy, amazing principal when I first started at Kingsford Intermediate, and then Beru Leo Pepetele, who definitely opened my eyes to so many different things, being of Samoan descent and just one of very few Pasifika principals that we have here in New Zealand. I was just really admired by his tenacity and just everything that he did. It was just, there was so much purpose to it, and that's what that was my whole journey, was like, there was a purpose as to why I walked into that principal's office and said, I want that seat of yours. And so, yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I hope that answers your question.
I love having educators on the show because I always love to ask them, what kind of student were you?
Yeah, I was that student. I was always driven, always wanted to be better than myself. I didn't really worry about anybody else. I just kind of did that on my own. I was quite into sport, like all Pacific Island students. Really into I hated reading, but eventually loved it, like maths, which was really weird. But yeah, I was that go-to person that broke up bullies in the school. I was that type of person. So yes. I was always having that finger, like I was always the leader. They always shoved me into doing, the patrols and, all of that stuff, or going to do the flag tour, crossing the roads. I remember at Auckland Girls, I wasn't a prefect, but I was part of the prefect team. One of those ones that they should have given it to me, but they didn't. They would always tell me to go and stand and make sure that the girls were all crossing. And I was like, no, that's your job as teachers. Anyway, I was that student. I was always that student. And like, it's funny, I bumped in with a couple of ag girls, and they were like, we always knew that you would be, some sort of educator or aspire to be, something like what I am now. So yeah, that was me in a nutshell. Like, definitely, yeah, driven and passionate about young people. I guess, yeah.
I wanted to ask, when you attend other meetings and you meet other Pasifika teachers in senior leadership team roles at this school, what is that like for you? Are you able to, do you attend a lot of meetings where you meet others, or?
Yeah, we're part of, there's so many, different organizations within the senior leadership area that I work in, which is Papatoetoe. And so you saying Pasifika, it's actually quite rare, still to this stage, which is really sad. What's unique about it is that my school in particular is all Pasifika senior leadership team, which is something that I didn't realize until my principal, Belu, mentioned that we were the only PI SLT team. Every time he took us to conferences, principal conferences that we've been to, just to expose us to that world, we're like the only ones. If anything, an SLT team from other schools would have one PI or, that token person in the group. But for us, we had 5. There's 5 of us actually, which is a real statement in itself. Having 5 Polynesian, 4 men, 1 female, who are just out there vouching for our tamariki, our kids, because when I look at our students, I see me, I see these leaders, I see success, and I see me and them, sort of thing. So, that really drives me to just be the change at the front. And I know it doesn't work for us in terms of Polynesian way of thinking, but in order for us to be at that level, to see change happen down at the bottom end, we need to be sitting at the top. So, yeah, in terms of seeing other people like me, it's funny. I got an email from, I think there's only about 49 Pacific principals here in Aotearoa, and they're all in Auckland. And they all emailed me because they found out that I won the job. And so it's just been really beautiful to see all of these different emails of congratulations and just like real positive messages that I know that I will, when it comes to that time when I join the New Zealand Pacific Principals Association, I will be able to be one of those who can work alongside, because I know that I've just got a pool of knowledge that I feed off every single one of them. So my current principal now, I'm just trying to pick his brain. I have been picking his brains for 6 years now, and trying to get as much as I can from him before I start my own journey. But I know that I'm not alone. I know that there's so many of them out there that I know that I can lean on and I can depend on. And they're already asking me, come and see our school, come and visit, and it's just been real humbling to know that I've got older brothers and sisters who can help out the young blood that's come through, the fresh blood that's come through. So yeah, it's actually, it's disheartening on some end because there's only a handful of us, but it's also quite powerful because we can do so much when there's a small group of us. And even though our audience is so large in numbers, we can still do a lot. So yeah, I'm super excited to meet the rest of the gang because I haven't really met them yet. I'm still in the deputy principal, still working right up until the end of this term, and then I'll hit the ground running with the beginners principals courses, and just joining the Pacific Principals Association, and there's so many other organizations as well out there that have that PI lens on it.
I looked at your current school and I saw definitely saw a lot of representation on staff, on faculty, in terms of Pacifica, just diverse, faces, which was so exciting to me. And I wondered about, because, representation, obviously, and amplifying Pacifica voices is so important to have in the classroom. And I wondered, in your experiences in these 9 years, is there, it's one thing to have it on the faces and faculty, but in our classrooms, in your experiences, is there also representation in terms of texts, resources, that kind of stuff? So just looking at it from that educator kind of point of view.
Oh, absolutely. Times have changed since when we were at school, right? And so a lot of our Pacifica educators have definitely invested a lot of their time and resources with contexts that are relatable to our kids. And saying that, we've had so many of our, when I first started, I pulled in my friends who are spoken word poets who are Polynesian, to get in there. And because, that's a forum that our kids love, and I remember just one of my best friends, she's Grace Tiwila Taylor. Yes. She's an amazing poet who came in and did workshops because I knew that the kids would be able to hook into that, and that would be literacy in a nutshell, and then it came to, we've just started with DIMIC, which is a Polynesian way of learning in terms of maths. That's also just come through, and we've definitely heightened that sort of level of delivery for our kids, and that's because we are Polynesian, and we know a few things because they're definitely us, right? And so it's not to say that we haven't taught them the basics, which is everyone's got their own sort of flavor, their own pedagogy on the way that they deliver that. But in saying that, a lot of our staff, Pacifica and non-Pacifica staff, have really embraced that they have to change it up every time because our kids, not only does social media take effect to the way we teach, we have to use TikTok in our delivery, and we have to use YouTube and all of this other stuff, which is ridiculous, but it's the only way to get our kids engaged in what is around them now. So yeah, it's definitely, the resources that we are using are to an extreme where, when it comes to language weeks, and it's not only in language weeks, we go all out, there's so much that's there. And a lot of it, our teachers create themselves too, because we know what it's like, when it comes to, when the statistics for boys is quite low in reading. And so, we've got a lot of male staff at our school. So they really try and push for that to happen, to have those role models. And, we get writers, I've totally forgot his name, but we get one of the Polynesian writers. He's Otara based, and he just comes in and he writes it gifts the kids, all these books and stuff about, the rock and, just real things that the boys will be engaged in. So yeah, there's definitely that all over.
Are you still in the classroom, or are you fully out because your job, there's just a lot going on there? Do you still teach, or?
No, so I don't teach at all. But I look after all the relievers and the day-to-day running of the school. So if I'm short with teachers, I jump in, and it's like, we're so used to it. We just jump in and run with the lesson plans, and if it doesn't work, I just throw the lesson plans out and I do my because when something's not right and the kids are not getting it, then you have to scaffold and you got to unpick it a little bit more. So yeah, for me, I love going back into the classrooms, because the kids, that's where the heart is, right? And so when I'm in front of the kids, it's so awesome. I love working with them. I love seeing them get what I'm talking about, even after 20 times. It doesn't matter. Just as long as they get it once, then my job's done. But going back into the classroom is always fun. But currently I'm not in a classroom. But I do, at my current school, I lead the heads of school, and I have it's kind of like the prefects of our school. So I look after them. So I have sessions with them regularly every week. So I'm not sort of detached from my students at all. So yeah, it's definitely, I don't think you can take the teacher out of anybody who's in education. So yeah.
Like I wonder if she misses being in the classroom,
100%. I mean, working as a DP, they did warn me that the toughest class was the teachers, and I must say, the teachers are the worst classroom I've ever had in my entire career. Is honestly, they are so honestly, they want this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'd rather have a classroom of 30 students in a class of 30 teachers. But I love the teachers at our school. They're amazing. They work so hard. But I understand the draining process of planning and trying to reach targets and trying to get your potential students to where they should be. I totally understand that life, and so being able to relate to those teachers and listen to them, it's really it warms my heart to know that I totally understand where they're coming from, because life is happening outside of school. Their mothers, their nanas, their dads, their uncles, they've got parents that they have to look after. So I totally understand that school is school, and work outside of school is work outside of school. So you really, being a deputy principal for the last 3 years, it's really made me appreciate teachers even more because of the amount of work that they do, endless work that they do, sort of thing. So I love being in the classroom. I love my teachers, but I'd prefer the kids.
How do you build morale then? How do you build morale? How do you, because we know that teacher life is, it's 24/7. I know it shouldn't be, but that's just the reality, right? You're just trying to juggle everything. So, it doesn't start at 8 and finish at 5. That's just not the reality in New Zealand, from what I remember. So how do you build morale? How do you encourage, your colleagues?
And, if anything, it's just to listen. Like, as simple as it sounds, it does work because a lot of teachers, that's all they want. They just want to be heard, and as a senior leadership team, I guess when I was, my first initial sort of starting blocks of being a teacher, we weren't heard. We would have these concerns and we would have these worries for our young people, and yet when we go to senior leadership, it was like just they just tell us to go and put it on a post-it note or email it to them. So, email it to them and then it goes nowhere. So for me and our leadership team, it was all about, it is all about listening to our teachers. Like, I need to listen to them because they're the ones who are teaching the kids. I need to listen to them because in order for me to make a change or for them to be heard, then I need to listen very carefully to what's going on. And that's the only way that we've ever built. When we listen and we take on what they're saying and we action it, that's when that morale builds. That's when that trust builds. That's when e ke o whaalelea ele wā between us as senior leadership team and them as teachers. But in saying that, just explaining that particular part is our school's not like that. Our school's very open. It's like an open door policy, but the VAR between teacher and senior team is quite unique. Like, our teachers are so good at just coming through my office, sitting down on my couch and just telling me. And I think it's because they trust that I will listen to them. But I think the biggest thing is just listening to my teachers. Like, I will take the time to turn them around and say, what's going on? That sort of thing. Because at the end of the day, I have that unique power to do something about their concerns and the concerns of their children. So I don't take that for granted. I really take that all in and say, okay, when I go back to the senior leadership team, when I go back to our principal and go, hey, this is what's happening, A, B, C, and D. These are the concerns. What are we going to do about it? And then we talk as a team and then we deliver it back to, the teachers. So to build the morale or build that whole whanaungatanga between us, it's so important that we just listen first. That's all I could say is listen first, because it goes a long way. That's all they wanted, right? At the end of the day, is say, I just want my senior team to go that I've got your back and you've got mine, vice versa, because as senior team, we are expected to deliver assessment, the expectations of assessment, the expectations of the different things that we have to do in terms of when the Education Review Office comes and reviews our school. So it works both ways. I expect the teachers to listen to me the way that I listen to them. So it coincides. It works both ways.
Mm.
I hope that answers the question.
What's your morning routine? Because I imagine your days are quite busy. You're moving all the time, but what is what time does your day start, and what is your regular routine, if you're able to share that?
Yeah. My day starts at 4:20 in the morning. 4:20 in the morning. I belong to Body Fit Training, which is just a gym, this new gym that's come through to New Zealand. Well, I don't know if it's new, actually. I just joined it. I actually went on a bit of a weight loss journey on the 8th of November of last year. I just went through this whole, I need to look after myself first, because I was putting everyone else's needs before me, and no one was looking after me, and I realized that it's only me that looks after myself. 10 years later, 30 years later. And so, I did this challenge. It's called 75 days, where you just do 2 workouts a day. And so I lost about 18 kilos in those 75 days, which was really bad, but it was actually good for me. And so my morning starts at 4:20. I have a 5 o'clock class, and then get home around about 6ish, get ready, get to work at 7:30, and that's when my day starts. So I start working because I'm in charge of so many different things at school. So I get phone calls, I get text messages if teachers are away or they've got PD or anything like that. My brain starts once I'm driving to school. Like I have steering wheel conversations. Jesus. I have steering wheel with Jesus because I'm saying, why is this person sick? And I'm just like, Lord, help me figure out what I need to do, because it's a bit of a, Minority Report. It's such an old movie, but you know how he's like moving, right? That's me. That's my brain driving to work, because, when someone calls in sick, and it's not one, it's like four. And then like I've got people who are off at sport, or I've got professional development happening on that day. So there's like 12 of them away. So I'm like Minority Report going, steering wheel, driving to work. So when I get to work, I've got it all. I just write it all down and then, get the day running. So that's my stuff. But if I didn't have like that me time for me in that morning, that 4:20, that 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., I don't even think I'll be talking to you. I think I'll be still sleeping, because I need to get up and like really get my blood flowing, and just that whole healthy me sort of kick to the start of the day, and it works, man. If anyone wants to do it. Just get up and go for a walk, or have lots of water and stuff like that. So all of that has played a real key part to how I've how I go about my day. So just starts good energy,
It was interesting. You would have noticed I didn't go what, or I didn't flinch or anything when you said 4:20. I was sitting here like, yes, finally someone else who is I'm a morning person. I get up at like 4. Like my alarm goes off. Like I'm just a morning person. I gotta get up. I can't So when you were talking, I was like, yes.
Because that's so good, right?
I feel that. Yeah. Like I can't. I have to just it just like the reason, like when I moved here, people think it's so crazy. They're like, why do you get on such an early train? Because I just started to build this routine of like waking up early, because gotta catch, you don't want to be on, because I commute to work, so you don't want to be on the trains that are super busy. But also coaching in the morning, because we can coach in the morning or in the afternoons. Obviously this was all prior to COVID, but I've always had that, like that routine where I got to get up. It's just I'm more obviously in the past month, teacher life has been kicking me right up the butt. It's been super hectic. We just finished school on Thursday, so it's been a real stressful past 6 to 8 weeks. So obviously my 4 a.m. start has been a bit muddy, but but I can relate to you. When you were talking, I was like, yes, I feel that, sis. Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
I was wondering, because you mentioned earlier EFKS, and I wanted to I remember, like, because being a Sunday school teacher, when you grow up, you're a youth leader and Sunday school teacher. I always used to talk about those skills that we get from that, from those spaces where you're like leading, right? And I wonder, growing up in the EFKS, how did that prepare you for the outside world? Not to say that we're in our own bubble in EFKS, but what I mean is when you're in different communities, working with different group communities, or in university or in your school for that, and in this case, being EFKS. Tell us how that prepared you for the real world.
Man, girl, I give full credit to EFKS. We are 100% EFKS to the core, right? And so, I always reflect. We're quite reflective, my sisters and I. And so every time we speak about EFKS, because I know growing up in high school and stuff, it was always EFKS versus the PICs. Because there were so many. We were such a minority at Auckland Girls. And so, and saying that, like I said before, EFKS has created that platform where it has been it's like seamless for us to do what we do in the education world, because it's been embedded in us since day dot. When we were in Hello White Sundays, man, we were getting up in front of people when we were 5 years old, man. Like, and being in a world where we have to deliver and we have to know the content as much as we know the Bible. It wasn't hard. Like, I'm being hand on heart. It wasn't. It was new because there was a whole lot of jargon and a whole lot of things that you had to learn in that sort of profession. But in terms of getting up and doing deliveries and, making connections with the community, or, speaking in our own language, oka, it wasn't hard for me to transition into education. It worked both, I've been teaching Sunday school since 16, I know same for you, right? Like, we went through Sunday school from Aonga Amata all the way up to, Pikoa, and we finished at 15, 16, how we went through those different levels. So, and saying that, I know what was expected of me when I had to gild the va between me and an elder that came in to speak on behalf of a child that was, playing up in class. And so that was really easy. And I think that's something that EFKS, or I don't know for other churches, but I really embrace that. I'm such a huge advocate for EFKS, like, knows. Anyway, Miss Pulou, because she's EFKS hard, The kids, like my auntie, Miss. I was like, is she EFKS? Like, I always throw it out there. And it's funny because they call me Sunday school teacher at work, because I look after the beginning teachers and the student teachers that come to our school. And so my principal, in a jokingly way, I was talking to them, but because they were all Samoans, it was so easy for me to say it in Samoan, and it comes out differently. When you hear it and out, it's like, oh, you know what? Don't miss that sort of thing. So, he was always like, oh, the Sunday school teacher's here. And I was like, if you've got a problem with the Sunday school teacher, then, come see the Sunday school teacher. Yeah, in terms of, growing up in the EFKS world, not to say that we were, ISO or anything like that, but it has definitely played a huge part in where I'm at right now. Like, not only culturally and the way that I know Mangangana really well, but it's just the holistic way of living EFKS, Fat more, all of that, it's my identity when I walk into the education world. I am Sialele Pulou because I'm an EFKS girl. I'm proud to be from that denomination and proud to be Samoan in a nutshell. So it's funny because there was this, when I went to a conference and I had to speak, and the first thing that came to my head was speak in your mother tongue. So, and then one man came over and he goes, "Ike loko ka iki," and I straight away I was like, yes, like, how did you not know that I was loko ka iki? But it was because of that. He said that the way that I spoke and the way that I, it was just, you could tell a person who was from EFKS than a person that was from a different denomination. So yeah, man, EFKS hard. Like, it is definitely, if anything, has made me who I am, because I know that we're the churches, but God is everywhere. But in terms of the EFKS, like, I carry that on my heart. Like, I'm so proud of even though when we were younger, I didn't understand, why do I have to speak in Samoan? Why do I have to get up and do the launga? Why do I have to speak on behalf of the Okalo? You know, that sort of thing. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so not going to help me in my career. And it wasn't until my dad, we always used to have Sunday conversations with the whole family, our sisters, and he would always used to tell us, you know, Liwinga, you know, as to why we tell you guys to, once you step foot into this house, you know, look after it, embrace it. And so it wasn't until I was at my work, like internal affairs was one, where they asked me to come in and speak on behalf of, you know, a client. And I was like, hang on, there are paid people to do this, you know. But because I was always that person that would speak in my language and embrace it, it was because of EFKS. So yeah, it's definitely made who I am today. It's a part and will always be a part of who I am, a maker. So I'll take EFKS with me everywhere. Everywhere.
You know, earlier you talked about self-care, you know, with your routine, your morning routine, which is super important. And I wondered, what other things do you do to take care of yourself that have nothing to do with education? And I ask this because, you know, as educators, it's just so hard to disconnect sometimes. And so I wondered, you know, what else? Are there other things that you love to do that are not related to education at all?
So at the, like, you know, my morning routine is always with a scripture, the Bible, or a reading for the morning. And recently I got gifted a book called Make the Shift, Helen Monk. And it was a book that has about close to, I think, about 400 sermons in it, all written in English, but, you know, that doesn't matter. It's just one of those things that helps me get through what I need to tackle for the day. The level of conversation that I have with my own, they call themselves my sphere of influence, that I have a good group of women who God-fearing women who we just have conversations to on a whole nother level. And so that's always part of my self-care. Not only do I have conversations a lot with my sisters and my family, I also have a lot of conversations with a good core group of women who we just always reach out to each other. So that's part of the self-care that I do, part of my routine. It feels odd to speak to these particular women who are in my life, especially my sisters. You know, there's that one sister that is all knows in the Bible thick and thin, and then there's one sister who's just so good at just being able to break down going through that I'm going through. She'll be able to spin it in a way that just give me a different perspective on it. And then the other sister is always like, up Sialele. So, you know, I've got a really good group of women and a sisterhood that feeds into my soul. It feeds into my cup, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, family is everything. And I know that I've got friends and families that, you know, who are always going to be right there in my corner rooting for me. So definitely part of my routine of keeping in touch with them and just sharing, you know, a whole bunch of things about life and what's happening. But yeah, my readings are definitely my anchor. And then, you know, like all Samoan families, you know, we're home, you know, the devotions at home, you know, 7 o'clock we have to be at home, still to this day, you know, and I'm so grateful. You know, when we were younger, it was like, oh, drag our feet because we have to go to local. But, you know, in hindsight, we know what it's for. You know, it's all kalosana, as to why we're here right now. You know, you wouldn't be in the position that you're in if it wasn't for your parents praying for you for a good life, for everything to come to fruition. So I don't take that for granted. I really embrace all of that, because I know that one day it will fizzle out. After my dad passed away, he was the go-to. He was the person that would always spiritually feed us, but also, on that level of being a father, he would always tell us, this is what you need to do. Always that go-to. Our parents are always those people that would, turn to help because they've got so much experience and so much knowledge that I think sometimes people forget that our parents are actually they're actually quite smart guys. And so, yeah, those sort of moments, it's all part of my self-care. It's all part of the makeup of who I am. So, and it keeps me grounded. I still am a BC for church. I've been doing it for 20 years, and even when I got the principal job at 4:00 in the afternoon and I had my interview on a Saturday morning, I was on my way to Old Bessie. I was on my way to Bessie's, and I'm crying my eyes out because they gave me the news that I got the job, and so I hung up the phone, and I'm walking into church, and I'm like, it just made me realize how much, the work that I do doesn't affect what I do for church or what I do for the glory to glorify God. So, yeah, I'm so humbled when it comes to, my kiukes at church and my kiukes as a daughter and within the family. Yeah, it's all part of my self-care, because if I don't have that balance of, serving my family and serving my community at church, then nothing is going to work for me in the education level in my career. So, yeah, it definitely plays out for me.
Yeah, I forgot about your duties at church. Funny that you bring it up. I forgot. I was like, hey, wait a minute. Stop right there.
Right.
Man.
Still, I've been kupe for Sunday school, still a Sunday school teacher, still conducting for the big choir now. It's been about a few years. I did Sunday school, but they've asked me to take the big EFKS, so EFKS. So, it's those things. It's it keeps me grounded. Like yesterday when we were doing, because we had a maliu at church at the moment, and they were like, Elea, lako Principalship pulou lea o ngai whai, your kongas and stuff. I was like, no. Okay, guys, let's just get this straight. That is a hat that I wear outside of church, but when I'm in church, I'm Sialele, who does all the fair hours in the world. So let's not cross over the two, because I just like to keep it that way. That's the principalship is just an added thing to what happens outside of church and family, but family and church is I know my place. I ain't gonna cross there. You didn't even need to tell me twice. I'll go with that sink and wash those dishes for you guys. So no principal hat there, man.
I was wondering, how would your students describe you, do you think? How would they describe Miss Pulou, Deputy Principal?
How would they describe me?
What do you think?
They wrote an article. They actually wrote an article in their newsletter 2 weeks ago when I got the job, and one of them said, "Hardworking," which I never ever see, because I don't feel like I'm working. You know how they have that saying where,
right,
when you love something, you're not working at all. I love what I do. So they said I'm hardworking. Funny was thank you, I will take that. I don't think I'm funny, but the kids think I'm funny. What else do they say? Tough love. I've got a tough love approach. I'm that auntie at the school. So, and scary. So I will say that. Hand on heart, I will say that, because I kid you not, I'm that teacher that walks down the hallway, the strip, and kids scatter because they can see me. I'll be like, why are you wearing those bikinis? That's not part of school form. Just that I see that. Look out for the kids. But definitely can have a laugh with them. I can take the hat off and just be Sialele, be real. So yeah, I think that's how they will describe me. Well, they better. They better describe me like that. Nah. That's a hard one. Those are hard questions to answer, you know? Like when,
What wisdom do you want to pass on to your students? I'm sure you have dropped many gems to empower them, to inspire them, but what is kind of like that go-to piece of wisdom that you pass on to your students?
yeah. Oh man. I think if anything, if you were to ask the many students that I've been blessed to serve, they would probably say, and it's something that I would always say, that you have that power of choice. Like your almighty power in this world is that you have the option to do what is right in your heart or to do what everyone else is telling you to do. So it really comes down to you believing in yourself and doing things that matter to you and not anybody else. So yeah, if anything, I would love to make sure that my kids walk away leaving that they know that our choice is really up to them. It's got nothing to do with anyone else, themselves. So yeah, that's probably something I've always promoted that in classes and students that have left me. I used to write the letters at the last day of school and just hand it to them, and a bit of something that from me to say that I will always be in their corner. There's always someone that's rooting for you. You're never alone. I would always be your cheerleader, from wherever you are in the world. Just know that Miss Paul's always got you. So funny you say that because I had 2 students turn up yesterday, and they were head boy in 2019 and head boy in 2018. And I reached out to them because it's my last sort of community project that I'm doing for Kedgley Intermediate. And I asked them if they were keen to come back. And like within like 10 seconds, they were like, yes, Miss Pulou. And they said that I completely changed their lives. Like I was that teacher that believed in them. So, I think it is working. I think the words of wisdom or those gems that I kind of passed on to kids, and it's I've learned myself, like growing up in EFKS, like I had a minister, like he just believed, like, he didn't even need to say a whole lot, but he knew that there was something in you and that he would just tap with on a daily. And so the same as parents, they would always instill in us that, make it look okay, go for it, because it's only you that you can do it. You can bring yourself out of the trouble that you kind of spiral your way into. It's only you that can get yourself out of. So those are the sort of things that I teach the kids. And so the kids that turned up yesterday to rehearsal, they were just sharing that with me, that, there were moments where it got out of control in their family, and then they'll come across my letter that just kind of simply put it in their terms where you've got this. It's only you that can get yourself out of this. It's only you that can move on from this. So yeah, that power of choice is so important to our young people because, some of our kids, they always get into trouble, or they, I have kids sit in my office and, they're vaping or they're doing something, and it's all because they want to. And it's like, but you choose to do that though. Like no one else told you. Like at the end of the day, yes, you heard from a E student or a B student, but you made that choice. So I just kind of trying to tap that, into the kids, saying that it comes down to you. So if anything, it's probably one thing that I would love more people to know, that the power of choice is your superpower.
Future aspirations. What do you? I mean, you're about to embark on a new journey soon, very soon, as the principal. But what else do you dream about, and what other goals have you yet to conquer?
The principalship was definitely the goal. But that's a really good question. I don't know, but, being a politician would be actually probably the next stepping stone. Like if I want change to happen on the level of principalship, then the Ministry of Education will probably be the next is get into where the big decisions are made. Definitely something that I would look into further on in my years, but because I'm so new to principalship, there's definitely a goal that I would love to aspire to, like just to get to that level of making change where it's good for everyone, not just a particular group. So yeah, if I could get to that level in terms of being the next Ministry of Education, yeah, that would be an awesome achievement in itself. But yeah, I guess where I'm at right now is definitely where I wanted to be. I didn't think I'll get there before I was 40, but yeah, I just know that if it's God's plan, then that's definitely where He will take me. So yeah, if anything, that would probably be the next step, is to get into the political scene and cause a whole lot of disruption there.
Do you have any book recommendations, or do you anything that you've read recently that you?
So when I told you that I did like a 75 hard challenge, it required me to read as many books as I could, and they were, at the moment, I've been reading a whole lot of leadership books, but I've got one book in particular that really kind of gave me just like a different, it's kind of like the Bible, but it's not. I mean, the Bible's got everything, right? But it's called Think Like a Monk, like Jay Shetty. And so my one's falling apart because like I wrote lots of notes and stuff on it, but it's a book about finding your purpose and what really resonates with you. But like he writes it in a way that it's like easy to read. Like you don't even, like, I say easy as in when you're feeling tired, it's that sort of easy. Like you read it and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to get up and read the rest of it. But yeah, what I loved about it is just as you go through this journey of self-care and that whole self-development and looking after your mind, body and soul, it really kind of gives you just a whole new lease on energy, because your brain is the biggest muscle that is needed. So reading is like a must. So yeah, I definitely would recommend, if anyone's going through life-changing event, or they just need something that just to lift their spirits, definitely recommend Think Like a Monk. I don't know if you've had it before, but yeah, it's definitely one to read. And I've read it twice, and there's just there's something about the way he explains it. It's just so easy to read. So I love it. It's one of my go-tos that if I'm feeling a little bit frustrated when I finish work or something, it's something that's really nice to just pick up. Just like the Bible, you pick it up and you just read a passage, and then you look it up and you see what the meaning is. Same as Jay Shetty's book. He like amplify his thoughts, your thoughts on a different level. I think that's what he says in the book as well. Yeah.
What is it like to have a seat at the table? Like for real. Like I know you talked about it, but like, do you feel overwhelmed at times? Do you feel super emotional about it, or are you just like, what, I'm here, I'm working in this team, let's just do it? Like, what is it like?
Belonging to this the senior leadership team at Kedgley, having a seat at that round table, it's such a privilege. Like, I don't take it for granted. I definitely always have to put myself into that space when I walked into that principal's office and know my purpose behind why I put myself out there. So, and saying, having that that privilege and that honor to be making the decisions for the people that we serve. Man, it's powerful in itself, but I also know that it is something that I take very seriously. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm human, but I have a job and I have an obligation to serve the community. So I definitely take that on, real seriously. And I know that the people that I have around me, we don't make the decisions right there on the spot. It takes a lot of process and thought to actually get to a point where we can say, yes, let's implement something that so-and-so has said, or let's run with this because it's going to help the community. So, yeah, it's definitely a good feeling that I get to serve young people that look exactly like me. They talk the way that I talk. They have similar backgrounds to me. So it makes my job that much sweeter, I guess, if I can say, and it becomes a full circle when I know exactly what they're going through. I know the tough times that's happening at home. I definitely understand that the whole life outside of school. So, yeah, it's definitely something that I am embracing every day.
You are someone that is a role model in the community. You're a role model for the young people at your own church. And I'm sure there are many of your students who aspire to walk in your footsteps to follow your footsteps one day. And saying that, I wonder about your circle. Who are the people that inspire you? Who are the people that you surround yourself with so that you do find that balance? Because it's very easy to be caught up in this, like, this is my job, I got to do this. You're in this particular space every day.
My family is my biggest group that I fall on. They're my sounding board. My sisters, I have 2 older sisters and 1 younger sister. And so their perspective on things that are, quite hectic at work, they just, feed me different spiritual talks, or just being there. Like, they just listen to what I have to say and then they give me advice. So I've definitely got a really good core group of family members that just do that on a regular basis. My mum always checking up on me. My father, I visit my dad at the cemetery. When I go, it's a Thursday afternoon visit. So when my dad was alive, we always used to have debriefs, and he always used to his encouragement was just keep doing it. Keep doing, what's right. What's right in your heart. What's right for your kids. So I always have it at the back of my mind when I'm going through different trials at work. And then I have a good core group of women who, who are just from different walks of life. Like, I've got educators like Manu, EFKS, Greylin, Hard. I've got Luffy as well, Luffy Peters, Anafanu, I should say. Or Aiono is Manu, and sorry, Swafa Makai Ngai Kamaikai. So, and just women who I have in my life who are just regularly, we always check in, and they're just my sphere of influence. Apparently, I'm their sphere of influence, but they're mine, and they're the ones who are my backbone. They are the ones who keep me on top of my purpose, and that's to serve the young people. So they remind me of the things that I constantly do all the time, but they just are there with words of encouragement, words of affirmation, words of the wise from our good Lord. And so they're just these God-fearing women that I know that are always there if I'm a text message away. So, and we regularly catch up as well. So these are the ones that inspire me to do what I do, but most of all, it's really the kids, those eyes. When I look at these young people, I see me in them when I was that young. So, at the end of the day, I'm inspired by all the young people that I serve. And yeah.
This is the time of the show where I like to ask our guests to share some final words of wisdom. Before I ask you to do that, Sialele, it's been such an honor. Sis, it's been such an honor to have you on the show, to share a little bit about your journey as an educator, as a leader, as a community leader, as a leader in your church. It's so inspirational. It's so empowering. Like, I'm listening to you and I'm just getting so amped. Like, yeah, yes, and it's so cool to just be able to reconnect and just to see your growth and development as an educator. Like, it's so cool, sis. I'm truly inspired and I'm just feeling so good right now. Like, it's been a very challenging year in my job, but you've said a lot of things today that have kind of reminded me, to stay on the path, and just to keep striving and, just to keep being a change maker. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here today. I am so excited to follow your journey as you embark on this new chapter of your life as a principal soon, very soon. Go for it, sis. Go hard, go with God, and all the best for that. And EFKS. Anyways, let me give you this moment just to share just some last words of wisdom, just for anyone who's listening who might need that bit of push or motivation, inspiration. Go ahead.
Oh man, I feel so honored. Just words of encouragement is just go out there and be you. You're the only person that looks like you. You're the only person that sounds like you. So go out there and be yourself. You're unique in all those areas of you being that person. So if anything, I'd love for your viewers to just, if you've got a dream and you want to go out there and get it, or you got that job that you're looking for, go out there and do it. There's no way in the world that you cannot do it. There's so much of you that can get out there and do as much as you can, because life is so short. But yeah, just be yourself. I always say to my students that the power lies within yourself. So you have that option, you have that choice to choose whether to go after that dream or not. So at the end of the day, it's entirely up to you. So if anything, I just want to encourage everyone to just go and chase that dream. When I shared with my students that I was leaving at the end of the term, they were in tears. They were, just really sad because I do a lot for them. But I said to them at the end of that session of sharing my journey throughout my career, I said to them that I hope this inspires you to go out there and do absolutely anything. Even at a young age, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. Even at this age, I wanted to be a principal. And so if anything, I want you to just keep going. Don't give up. Don't just think that it stops at this young age and it stops at my age at 38. You can totally do this. You can totally get out there and put that right and left foot forward and just keep going, keep moving, keep being motivated. Invest your time in good people. Invest your time in the Word of God, if that is your belief, because honestly, it helps. It helps balance out everything, not only mentally, but also physically and spiritually for yourself. So, I leave that with your viewers. Thank you so much for having me. But just go out there and be who you are, be your unique self, be the best version of you.